welcome to the Accidental Fatherhood podcast with James and Ash. We started this podcast because there isn't a lot of support out there for us guys. We're going through a pretty tough time right now.
Yeah, accidents, not mistakes.
Unplanned pregnancies and new relationships and what is going on with our lives. So we're trying to bring a little bit of support through some awesome special guests, and
It's a place to commiserate together.
all right, we are rolling. Welcome everyone to the Accidental Fatherhood podcast with James and Ash. Hey Ash. We are joined today with a very special guest, Colin Brennan. Colin, would you like to give us a little brief intro on who you are, what you do, and perhaps why you thought you'd come on today and share a bit of your experience with fatherhood?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. As you mentioned, my name is Colin Brennan. I have been living in Australia now for about 11 years. I work in real estate. I work in sales. And why I sort of reached out and listened to a lot of your podcasts is because, recently, for quite a few years now, I've been in that sort of co-parenting, as I think you like to put it, role. We're stepping into an area with a single parent and with a little child as well. Really keen to sort of share my challenges and things like that with you guys, because I do feel, as I mentioned to yourselves earlier, if I had a little bit of information that I've heard from your podcast, 3 or 4 months ago, I might not be sitting in this situation now. So I think that everything that you share, any information, any knowledge that you can get out of this, and I think there's a little bit for me to share. It's great, and hopefully it can sort of help other people out there, like navigate their challenges, or if they're in the same situation that I am in or was in.
Yeah, awesome. So long time listener, first time caller.
Correct.
Yeah,
right.
First one.
Yes. So are you an accidental father? Was it all planned, or was it an accident? How did your baby happen?
Not at all. So I'm not a father biologically to anybody. So I've been in a relationship, or was in a relationship, for the past 2.5 years. She was a single mum. So I knew obviously what I was, I thought I knew what I was sort of getting into when I started dating this single mum. And taking on a child, obviously, further down the line, and becoming or entering into that kind of co-parenting role.
So you were kind of an accidental father in a way of, not biologically, but you became a father by default of dating this single mum.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how old was the child?
She was 3 when I met her. She's just turned 6 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just missed they call them the terrible twos, but I've been told not to go. Not to go into those, the ones and the twos, not to label them, but so 3 years old, and it was a little girl.
Little girl, yeah.
Little girl, awesome.
Yeah. People always used to say that you missed the bad bits,
Yes.
or like you said, the terrible twos. Just sort of escaped. Then I was a little bit happy about that. Well, it was it is what it is. Just in her life for over half her life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was that like, dating a single mum initially? Because was there a bit of a, like, I'm not sure whether this man's good enough to meet my daughter kind of thing initially? Is that how they kind of navigate that? Or
yeah, look, I think it's always out there, when people always say to single parents, and I'm not just going to say single mums, here, single fathers as well. Like a lot of people always say, when you're a single parent, or you're never going to find a partner, or you're never going to settle down with anybody. I think that's the sort of the stigma that a lot of single parents have. So it is so tough. I can't imagine what it would be like as a single parent, wanting to get out in the dating scene again, and navigating that. When's the right time? Is this the right person? You go through the sort of the dating of however long you're dating for, and then you have the conversation where you say, I think it's time to, this might be long term. I think it's time for you to, meet my daughter. I can't imagine from a single parent's point of view what that must be like, introducing somebody into your kid's life. But I think obviously from the other side of things as well, from the person actually stepping in, it's bloody terrifying.
Yeah.
It's absolutely terrifying, because all you're trying to do is you want this kid to love you. This 3-4 year old little girl, you want her to love you. You want her to like you, so you're doing everything to sort of please her, and at that stage when you're sort of just dating, it's terrifying. You're going above and beyond, and the single parents are always like, oh, you can say no. When like she goes, oh, come and play in my room. It's like, yeah, well, you can say no. It's like, no, I'll go. You go and do whatever. It's like, oh, can I have $10? Can I have some sweets? Or you can have everything. As long as you just like me.
So your mum likes me.
As long as if you like me, then your mum's gonna like me.
It's like that test when you go and meet their dog, and if the dog doesn't like you, sorry, we can't date. That kind of thing. But this is on the next level.
That's it. Like I get that a lot in real estate when I walk into people's houses and they've got a dog. It's like, oh, if Pickles likes you, then you've got the job. And it was kind of like that. It just really just sort of going overboard, just trying to sort of please, just be liked, and just
And was Dad in the picture?
He is. He has her for a weekend every fortnight. So Friday night to Sunday night every fortnight. 70% of the time she's with mum. Yeah.
And did you guys meet organically or dating apps or
dating apps?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, the way that everyone does these days.
I'm a dating app. Yeah, you're not a dating app.
Oh
yeah.
And I think that's as well. Like, obviously, you're in the chatting stage of the dating apps, and as I mentioned, obviously, when you introduce the new partner into your life and into your daughter's life, I've come across this before with relationships that didn't work out. But obviously, you're in that chatting stage on dating apps and things like that, and then eventually it gets to the point where you're maybe like 3 or 4 days in, and you're just chatting, you're getting on really well when the single parent brings up, I've got, and they feel like it's going somewhere, and okay, we could catch up, we're going to be dating. It gets to that point where they turn around and say, I just want to let you know I'm a single parent, I've got a daughter. And you can really tell from the other side that that's a terrifying thing to say, because that's the point where somebody's either going to run or they're going to say, okay,
let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go. See, as I mentioned, obviously it's terrifying allowing somebody into your life, but even when you're in that talking stage, I can't imagine how it must feel, because when you get that message, you can actually feel like they don't want to mention anything. I've just got something I want to mention before this goes sort of any further, that I've got a child. So that's a very terrifying thing, because the answer to that could be like ghosted, or let's go for it.
And I feel like people, if they're not transparent on their profile, which is it's dating apps, you don't need to be. That is the thing, because you are holding some truth back. Because if she was on there and saying I'm a single mum, blah blah blah, she's probably thinking, well, that's going to lower my eliminate a whole chunk of men, and potentially I could get them over the line if I can have 4 good dates with them, and then tell them. And
if they can actually meet who I am as a person and get to know me,
and not judge.
And then you bring this sort of next thing on board. Whereas I completely understand that why you wouldn't, from a single parent's point of view, put that or advertise that on your dating apps, because at the end of the day, you want somebody to fall in love and sort of be with yourself, and the only way you can do that is through conversation. So you can really sort of tell from the other side. It's a really frightening thing for them to have to go through. So the whole sort of experiences was just met like challenge after challenge after challenge.
And you see the woman on the other side of that, where on the dating apps they'll go, my son is the love of my life, and he will always be my number one. And you see that, and I just go, okay. See you later. Swipe left, because there's no way they have room for you in their life. So awesome, man.
It's a very, very tricky road to navigate.
I
think meeting new people when you're a single parent.
I think meeting new people in general, especially in the dating app world, is tricky enough. So that's just another level of challenge that people have to go through.
And as you rightly said, like you will eliminate a lot of people based on that. People don't want to take, like you see it all the time, people don't want to be responsible for somebody else's or child or something like that. So there's a whole chunk of people that won't, like, not in a bad way, but just don't want that in their lives. Maybe don't want children, maybe don't, all of those things. They just don't want that. So it's you have to find somebody that's going to be open to that, and you can tell just from the way that the other person sort of approaches that. It's a nerve-wracking thing.
So what number date was it when you finally got to meet her little?
We met during COVID.
Yeah, right.
So there was no going out to eat or dates or anything like that, which was kind of good.
Netflix and chill.
Yeah. There was.
So it must have been pretty early then.
Yeah. There was no expectation on me to go out for a fancy coffee or to go out for a fancy dinner or whatever, which worked really well because we just said, come over to mine, I'll get a bottle of wine. We just sat there for 4 hours and just talked.
Yeah.
Just literally talked and really got to know each other rather than, you go out for dinner, it's 2 hours, you're sitting across the table from each other. Whatever happens after that, and then vice versa. The second day I went round to hers and the same thing happened. We just sat there and chilled and just sort of spoke for like 4 hours. But what number? I think it must have been. I honestly can't remember the exact number. It was probably around the sort of the 5 or 6.
Yeah, so pretty early on.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think he's dating every second weekend when the daughter's at dad's place.
That's it. Yeah,
it's a long time.
So like out of a 14-day, there's only 3 nights that she has available.
Yeah.
So it's every second week, and you wouldn't invite somebody round to the house because the 3-year-old kid is going to get up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It's like, who's this person in my living room? Like, I don't know this person.
So it must have been like, geez, she's busy. We've not seen each other for another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Like the availability's there. She's playing hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a good navigation because we both kind of wanted. We kind of both felt early on that there was something that there was something here.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So what part of the becoming a dad, what part of that was the biggest challenge for you, apart from making sure that she liked you?
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge about being a new dad? Like, what was that like? And how were there any tools that you can share of how you kind of navigated that, or any tips for people in the same circumstance?
Oh, for sure. So like I think there's when do you actually call yourself the co-dad? When do you actually get into that point? Because there's an area where you kind of like you're dating for 12 months or anything or something like that. You might be staying around the odd night. Would you call yourself a co-parent? Like really all you're doing is you're going over there, you're hanging out with them on the weekends, you're watching a movie on a Saturday night, you're going out for breakfast on a Sunday. But that's kind of just, like the dating scene and
like
things
mum's,
like that.
Mum's special friend.
Exactly that. Mum, yeah.
Uncle Colin.
Yeah. And that's how it was sort of introduced. This is sort of mum's special friend. Like when you actually sort of step into the responsibility stage of things, as you sort of mentioned, and when you actually become that sort of co-parent, I think is, when you decide that you're going to move in with that person, and then you are in that person's life 24/7.
Yeah.
I think until that point, it's all fun and games.
Yeah.
It's all fun and games. Nothing really changes with your life. Your routine stays exactly the same. Your Monday to Friday routine, because you're at your home, they're at their home. You see each other on the weekend. Nothing changes. Your routine, your business, your gym life, all of those things just kind of stay the same, and nothing really changes. And the challenges don't really come in until you're in that.
Yeah, that concentrated.
Until you're in that household.
Yeah.
Until you're in that household 24/7, and then you start sharing responsibilities. It's I don't think it's talked about enough, and not a lot of people realize that, when you step into that environment, you actually lose 50% of your time, whereas the single person gains 50% of their time. So they're used to doing everything by themselves, 100% of the time. That they're used to doing the drop-offs, they're used to making the packed lunches, they're used to doing the pickups, all of that kind of stuff. When the partner comes in and joins in, you kind of split everything 50-50, so you actually lose 50% of your time.
Yep.
So I think that's one thing that sort of we have to acknowledge, and one sort of tip that I could give to somebody, you're going to have to make time. You're going to have to make some time somewhere, and where's that sort of time going to be? And just remember that, that person is making time because they want to be there, they care for you, and that they love you. There's going to be a little bit of time that you're going to have to make up somewhere, whether it's in business or stuff like that. And I quickly realised that from the dating, everything being fun and being mum's special friend, to, we're going to move in together and we're going to be in that father figure role. There was a lot of, that was the sort of the point where things just completely, the challenges came.
Yeah. And I think, relationships are one of the hardest things to navigate. I'm like,
Anyway.
Yeah. And without a child, with a child,
Yeah.
we're in 8 months now, and my partner's moved in, and the challenges, we're looking at getting some counselling just to help us with a few of the challenges in communication that we're having, and just to make sure we're on the same page. And it is challenging. It's challenging without a child at the moment.
And did you say you're 8 months in?
Right. Yeah. So we're about 5 weeks away from. I'm not going to say D-Day, but.
Christmas baby.
Christmas babies from the world. Christmas babies from the world exploding. So it's tricky, and especially she's moved in as well. So you just like poof, like this. It's concentrated.
Yeah.
Your stuff's coming up, her stuff's coming up, and then you're reflecting on each other about your bad habits, her bad habits.
Yeah.
Like there is starting to be shit around my house. Or my apartment.
Organised chaos.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, and what actually I don't like is everyone I speak to is like, you know what, James, it's not going to get any easier.
Yeah.
Everyone says that.
It's going to get worse.
It's going to get harder. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. So yeah,
it's just navigating the changes.
It is,
and just having that communication, and just saying, hey, this is where I am at the moment, and what can we do? How can we make it work? And just having those conversations. Yeah. And I think not only having the conversations, but having the understanding from where the other person's coming from.
Yeah. And working as a team.
100%. Yeah. It's not you. It's not her. It's us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one to get around. I think, especially when it goes from, dating. Like I went from dating for 4 years to it's not me anymore. It's us.
It's us.
And it's actually quite a hard adjustment to make. Yeah. And there is a grieving process around that. And I think we talked in the last podcast, but it's been a challenge, and we're both fairly daunted by December 18. We're both pretty daunted by that. We're not sure what's going to happen, and
nothing. It's funny because nothing. You get told, oh, you're going to lose sleep. You get told stories. Nothing actually prepares you for it, and you're not going to know the answers to it now until it actually comes. You can prepare yourself as much as you want. You can prepare yourself for the sleepless nights, all of those kind of things. They're coming. People tell you about it. Oh, you're going to have this. You're going to have that. But everyone's going to be different, and when it happens, that's when you're going to start to navigate. You'll be prepared, as prepared as you can be. Yep. But I think until that sort of actually happens, you kind of navigate it from there. I think everyone always says, when you pass your driving test, but you don't actually learn how to drive until after that.
Yeah, it's true. And it's experiential learning. Someone said this once to me. If you were to go to a restaurant, your friend says, you got to go to this restaurant. They have the best pizza in the world. The best pizza in the world. It is the best. You go to, you've heard that it's good, right? It sounds delicious. It is, it sounds great. Then you go to the restaurant and you see it on the menu and you see someone eating it and you're like, and you say, hey, what's the pizza like? It is the best pizza.
Yeah.
But until you take a bite of that pizza, you have no idea what that pizza's like.
Yeah.
Right? That's the experiential learning part of life.
Yeah.
We actually have to be there and take a bite of that pizza before we know what we think of it anyway and how we're going to actually navigate that.
It's really before you experience it. Yeah, everything's perception.
Yeah.
That person's perception of that pizza and to someone else's is going to be completely different.
And some people say it's going to be the most beautiful time of your life is to have these children, and others say, good luck, mate, you're not going to get any sleep. You get so many different perspectives, and I think until you're going through it, you're right, you have no idea how you're going to navigate that and what that's going to be like. So I try and remain positive and optimistic most of the time, and just hopefully we'll be okay.
It's an exciting time.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So tell us about what were the challenges that came up for you in this household? What were the cracks that started to form?
Good question. I think to start with, we didn't go into this thinking that there was going to be any challenges or any changes whatsoever. We both went into this exercise when I first moved in to the household, and that was about 14 months ago now, that everything was going to stay the same. Love life was going to stay the same, business was going to stay the same, gift giving was going to stay the same, little getaways, everything was going to stay exactly the same as how it was in the honeymoon period, in the dating period, or whatever you want to sort of call it. And one of the challenges that we faced together was, things aren't going to stay the same. Especially for me, my routine kind of changed completely. I went from, I went from waking up in the morning, like, to, being a bachelor and things like that, from waking up in the morning at 5 o'clock, getting to the gym at 6 o'clock. We changed our whole routine when we were in that sort of family. I was waking up at 4:30, so I was waking up a little bit earlier. I was getting to the gym at 5, doing a session for an hour, leaving at 6, and then sort of coming home at 6:30. Then my partner would leave to go to the gym after that. She'd go at 7, and then the little one would get up, and then I would be in charge of, like getting everything ready for school, getting her dressed, doing her teeth, doing the breakfast and stuff like that, and then sort of taking her to school, and sort of all those things were completely new to me. I think as a 5-year-old as well, there's going to be episodes, that the child is going to have, whether it's at night, nightmares, things like that. One of the things that sort of really used to get to me was, dropping off to school. She used to grab hold of my leg, and the teachers used to have to pull her off. She's like, I don't want to leave, I don't want to go. And starting my day like that, it just used to really, really upset me. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on at school? Why doesn't she want to go there? And actually wanted to try and dig a little bit deeper to sort of find out what's happening. So I think emotionally, those kind of things, they were sort of really challenging for me. But I guess it was sort of staying on top of what my partner was used to. That was a real challenge for me. So we had like a routine before I moved into that experience, whether it be like business, love life, things like that, that I struggled to sort of keep up with those expectations, because as I mentioned, the whole routine changes, your whole life changes. You've got this little person in your life, and I think it was Dr. Ash that you had on a few weeks ago. She mentioned, her partner used to say to her and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got these little humans running around, and like, I actually don't know what I'm doing. And that's how I felt at times. Yeah. It's like, what do I do in this situation? What do I do in that situation? And I think I sort of struggled with keeping up with the person that I was before, and keeping up with everything staying the same. It just didn't, like, we were having conversations about it, but it just wasn't working. And I felt that it was all kind of on me to fix, and that it was my challenge, and that I had to be better. I had to be better in this area. I had to be better in this area. I had to be better in that area. And we weren't working together. We were working individually.
Did it feel like you were doing all of the changing?
Yeah.
For this situation for her, and it just felt like, did it feel like a little bit one-sided for you?
Yeah, 100%. Because it was like I came into this situation. I'm the single parent. They've been there for like the last 5 years. They know it. They're used to it. It just comes naturally to them. Whereas you're navigating all these new things, all these new routines, all these new emotions and things like that. That, like when I used to reach out and say, hey, like, I need a little bit of help here. What do I do in this situation? What do I do in that situation? I think it was more like, just get on with it. Like, deal with it, and stand up and like be a man, and like all the things that society kind of puts on people these days, be sort of a little bit more masculine and just sort of work. So I kind of felt that it was all me having to sort of work on trying to be better, when in reality, when we both look back on it now, it's like it was a us thing, and we just didn't work together to try and work on moving forward.
Yeah.
So that was a huge challenge for us.
Did you feel like you were losing a lot of yourself?
Yeah. A lot of the things that I like to do, like my hobbies and things like that, just wasn't getting around to it.
Yeah.
But there was never a point where I wanted it to change.
Yeah.
Like, having a family is the number one most important thing that I wanted in my life, without a doubt. When I was with them both, like, we'd play in the park on Sunday. That was the happiest I've ever been. Like, I can honestly say that. Like, my focus was 100% truly on them. So yes, I feel like I was losing myself a little bit, but I think when you step into situations like that, whether it's an accidental fatherhood or whether it's a normal fatherhood, you're going to have changes. There's going to be changes, and it's just adapting to those changes. You might have to sacrifice, something in the evenings or something, a hobby that you wanted to do. But yeah, it just felt like I was losing myself a little bit. And then when that starts happening, you kind of
start resenting the situation a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
And you must have created a fairly strong bond with the daughter.
100%.
I imagine.
Yeah, she was my daughter. She was like, I didn't look at her in any other way. Like Monday to Friday in the mornings was our time. every single day. Like I'd get her up from school, we'd have the little routine. I'd take her to school, we'd have a laugh and a joke, she'd have the iPad in the car. I didn't see it as any other way, like she was my daughter.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's,
challenging to let that go, huh?
Hugely challenging. Like I can only imagine what, because I saw her as like my real daughter. So to have that, because now I don't think we've mentioned it in the podcast yet, but I'm not in that relationship anymore.
Yeah.
We're not in that relationship anymore, but 100% it just feels like something has been ripped, from me, something that you give your heart to.
Yep.
And we all did, all three of us did. Like we all sort of gave our hearts, and like when you go into that relationship, you give 50% of your heart one way, you give 50% of your heart the other way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a massive bond, a huge bond, and it's just been ripped, and that's probably one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with in a very, very long time.
Yeah, I've gone through that, just so you know.
You really?
Yeah, I don't know if people know that, but I was
No
in a
one-
relationship for 2 years in a similar situation.
Yeah.
And similar ages as well. So he was just going to school.
Yeah.
And it's challenging. And I went down a pretty destructive path.
Yeah.
In myself.
Nothing can prepare you for it.
No. And I was, I did the whole, I'm okay, I'm all good sort of thing.
How long were you seeing your partner for?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah. We had a bit of a break in between that for a few months, but on the whole 2.5 years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
it's recent?
The breakup?
Yeah.
4 weeks.
Yeah. It's
Fresh.
recent.
It's fresh.
And it sucks too. I'll say that I just want to acknowledge how much it's going to suck this Christmas for you.
Yeah,
because Christmas for me in that relationship was the best time ever. So I can only imagine how painful that must be for you. So sorry.
That's all right. I'm trying to prepare myself for that. I know what's coming.
Yeah.
So the last 2 Christmases obviously we spent together.
Yeah.
And that is it is a tough thing, and there's so many triggers everywhere every single day. I went shopping at Pack Fair on Saturday, and then you see like the little 4-year-old that runs up to her dad and gives her a hug in the middle of Pack Fair. I've got to go home. I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough, as you sort of mentioned, I don't think there's enough sort of acknowledgement around that it is such a tough thing to have, like literally taken away from you.
Yeah.
And my partner did, when we broke up, my partner did say, like I loved you in her life. That was one thing that you did so well. In fact, probably too well. I'd give 70% of my heart and my love and my time and my affection to the little one. That only sort of 30% was with my partner. Yeah. Which was discussed. You're not kind of keeping up with the things like the giving, the going aways and things like that, because 70% of my heart was here. And the irony is that's sort of, why it ended, for giving my heart too much here. But it's sort of forgot where I was going with that.
I was going to ask you, why did you guys decide to actually call it like it? And you're saying because you were giving so much love to the child that you neglected the relationship a little bit. Yeah,
she did actually say that when we broke, I really want you to be a part of the little one's life. I still want you to be here. I think you've got so much to offer in that regard. That I still want you to be a part of her life, and you can be like the friend that comes and takes her to the park and things like that. And I did give it some thought, but I can't see how that works.
Is this going to be too hard for you?
It's going to for everyone. Like I think because eventually there's going to be somebody new in her life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be now 6 months or 12 months, but when mum starts dating again, there's going to be somebody new in her life. It just doesn't work like that. She doesn't spend a weekend at mum's, a weekend at dad's, and then a weekend at the guy who mum dated for 2 years. It's eventually you're going to lose that relationship. It might as well be now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair on the little one either at that age to still be a part. Like, who are you now? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not staying at mum's bed anymore, like that kind of stuff. So I just felt like I couldn't be in that sort of space anymore, which I think was best for everyone. It's tough, as you know.
Yep.
But I think it's tough. I mean, how did you navigate that?
Well, I was lucky. Not lucky, but my mate is a psychologist, and he gave me the advice. He's like, look, the child, best thing for the child, because that's all I was concerned about when it happened, when we split up. And I was like, what do? Do I continue to keep this relationship going? And he said, mate, the child needs to mourn you.
Yeah.
And basically,
is that why I kicked you in the nuts?
Yeah. I was telling one story the other day where did you have that when you woke up in the middle of the night?
I used to get elbows in the face.
Yeah. And it's like kicked in the nuts. Oh man, I was like in a nice, beautiful dream. You just get a swift kick to the nuts. But he was a strong little bastard too.
You do miss those.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, definitely. And it was pretty rough. To miss all that, and then the first Christmas sucked. But you do get over it, and like you said, there's going to be somebody else in the little girl's life. Yeah, and you just gotta.
It's not going to be you.
You gotta let them mourn. And you've got to let them get over it, and you've got to let them move on as well. And I think that, like you said, I think that's what you said is bang on with, all you're doing is prolonging that.
Yeah.
And then every day it's going to be more and more.
And they're probably going to learn some good lessons out of the mourning as well, like, or grieving the loss of a friend or,
At the end of the day, they've got their dad.
Yeah.
Who they do see every second week.
Yeah.
And then they've got you, and unfortunately, and who knows, your ex-partner might go on and date 5-10 other people. And this little girl needs to get adapted and needs to learn what this looks like. Otherwise, she's just not going to be that stable.
Yeah. So
I think it, and that's what basically, I might be butchering it, but that was his explanation. It made sense to me. And yeah, it was tough, but ultimately you got to do it for the child. And it sounds like that's what you care about the most.
I just couldn't see how that was going to benefit her.
Yeah, no.
I couldn't like it. Yeah.
So looking back on the relationship and everything that went on, is there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, I would have. As I mentioned to yourselves, like learning and having a little bit more knowledge around the challenges that we were going to face. I think we sort of both went in very, very naive, that this wasn't going to be a challenge, and that we're not going to be tested, that when those challenges did arise and that when those tests did come up, we were just kind of like blaming each other. Why is this happening? I couldn't sort of figure out what was sort of happening to me. I just knew that, there was some things that were going on that we were, we weren't as strong of a unit as we were to begin with. And it's reaching out to people like you said, James, and just sitting down with somebody who's somebody like Dr. Ash, who you had on the show like a couple of weeks ago, and say, hey, these are the things that we're experiencing. How do we navigate these, and sort of what do we do, and how do we move forward with these things? That's something that we never done. We went individually in our sort of own path. It was always, I've got somebody who you can speak to because, these things need to change in our relationship, which I did go and sort of seek. And I sat down with somebody, but it was like, hold on, we're doing this individually. You're going to your life coach, I'm going to my life coach. Why aren't we doing this together?
Because it feels like almost like a self-preservation from maybe not feeling secure, and you feel like, well, I've got to look after myself. And I know that's kind of how my relationship is at the moment. I feel like we're both kind of worried about ourselves so much that we're struggling to come together and do it together. And
that's a good way of putting it.
There's like fear around that, leaning into that for me. There's just a little bit of like,
100%.
How are we, because it's a vulnerability. It's like when you say, okay, well, I've said I'm going to be here. I'm not going anywhere for this baby. I'm going to be around. But when it comes to our relationship, and I think my partner said this week, or Alex said, she's like, I feel like there's a block there, and there is a block there because I'm fucking shitting myself. Yeah. And
but acknowledging that there's a block there, that's a great step. Yeah. We in our relationship we didn't really. We didn't look together and just speak together. And I think from a single parent's point of view, when you say, there's, like they've got another person to protect. So you can see why they're very much in themselves, like, I've got to protect my daughter at all costs. I've got to do what's best for her, so I'm going to go my way and sort my stuff out. And I think you hit the nail on the head. We just struggled to come together to work together on what it was we needed out of the relationship, and why things were going the other way.
And I think that's, Alex's primary drive at the moment is, I've got to look after myself. What if because the reality is, I could go, what, this isn't working, and I'm let's do a co-parenting thing. And then she's literally got to fend for herself. It is a possibility that could happen, right?
And the child.
So and the child, but
because you don't have milk coming out of your tits.
No, I know, and that is a thing, right? Like, it's. And I think she's got to make sure she's going to be okay, because she is going to have a child now. So her focus is on making sure she always says to me, I don't want to be living on the streets. And I'm like, there is no way I would let the mother of my child and my child live on the streets. There is absolutely no way. But that's the kind of thought patterns that are going through her mind as well, because she's in that, she's feeling really vulnerable right now. And I'm feeling vulnerable as well, because I've got to kind of lean into that kind of provider. And we were talking about this a few weeks ago. It's like, as soon as you start providing and you become that person, then my vulnerability is, well, what if she takes half of all my stuff? Like, that's my vulnerability, right? Which I've.
So you're both kind of like, you're putting up these sort of walls individually to protect yourself for something that might never happen. Yeah,
exactly. So we're in this anxious mindset of self-preservation, and it's just it's destroying the intimacy that we had. It's so we're actually going to go see someone, because we feel like, and together we're going to do it together, because we feel like it's going to be really important to at least air this stuff that's going on. And we do talk about this stuff, but I still feel like having someone to moderate it or to facilitate the discussion is better, because they're having an overview and a non-biased kind of advice on, hey guys, James is feeling this way because of this, Alex is feeling this way because of this. You need to understand that the way you're acting right now is making her feel this way. Just someone to like help us, guide us through that. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, or they're not going to go, all of a sudden you've done one session and you guys are going to be sweet. I just think it's giving us a little bit of true openness and sharing our vulnerabilities, so that we can kind of come together and work towards collaborating, which we're doing our very best at the moment, but I think we need guidance. Yeah,
that's awesome. And that's one thing that we never did in our relationship. Together anyway. Worked on it together. So if there's a tip, it's have that conversation, and don't think it's too early. Like, we're 8 months in or whatever, or we're 2 years in, and we're going to sit down with somebody. Like, if you love and you care for somebody, and you want it to work and you want it to happen, then you'll do that.
And most people think is, well, I don't need to see someone, we don't have a problem. Like the dentist, we don't go to a dentist till there's a problem, right? So some people,
by then it's too late.
But then it's too late, and then the cracks are forming, and I have done couples counselling before, and it was helpful. It really was helpful, and all of the shadows or the skeletons came out. Having a bit of a dance.
Sounds like a fun time.
It actually wasn't a fun time. It's pretty intense, but I also when you do these things, I see it as a personal development or a growth perspective. Like, I try and have that frame of, I'm going to learn more about me by doing this, and I'm going to learn more about my partner doing this, and we're going to grow together. So there's kind of a bit of a personal development side to it, which I kind of like
a massage. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel so good afterwards in about 2 weeks.
I don't have massages that hurt.
Don't you?
That actually makes sense though.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Well,
James over here.
I think it'd be more like going to the gym, and you work out and your muscles are sore.
I don't go to the gym.
That's why you get some massages. I just work out. But good analogies. Makes sense.
They're kind of like, it's going to be painful, but we're
Yeah.
gonna grow from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After 2
Something
weeks
is-
of not talking to each other.
Something good's
You
gonna
should-
come out of it.
You should time it just before the birth, so that like when you're not talking to each other because of what's come up in counselling, then the birth happens. Like, oh, we've got to talk to each other now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and Alex was a little bit sad this morning, and I know it's that she's in the 3rd trimester and there's only a few weeks to go, and she's feeling really uncomfortable right now. Like, she slept in another bed last night, and she woke when I went down to our thing and had a sauna, and I came back up and she was a little bit teary, and I'm like, what's going on? Is everything okay? And we had a bit of a, she's feeling very overwhelmed, and she just kind of, just expressed all of these emotions that she's having, and I'm like, what can I do? Like, what can how can I help you here? And so I booked in a counselling session at lunchtime.
It's sometimes tough to know what to do. Like, you ask the question, what can I do? But a lot of the time when I sort of, ask that question, there's not really much you can do. And it's like, well, have I got to try and sort of think here? There's obviously something I can do, but I've got to try and think for myself here as to kind of what it is I can do.
It's almost
to
like
make this situation better.
Yeah, it's almost like they test you. It's like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Is there anything I can do? No, it's okay. I'm okay. I'm like, do you need a hug? Not right now, thank you. Is what I was getting this morning. I'm like, okay, well, what can I do here? I want to help you. What can I do? So it is really difficult, and I feel like they think we should know what to do, but we're fucking clueless.
Yeah,
right.
True.
Most of the time we're fucking clueless.
I just end up running around like Eilish chicken.
Yeah,
I'm trying to make dinner, trying to bring a drink, trying to like, is there anything else I can do? And then it's just like, just go, just give me space.
Yeah.
Stop crowding me.
Yeah.
And then it's tough to try and navigate.
Yeah. I'm doing foot massages and leg massages and getting tea in the morning, and I'm just trying my best to like, what can I do to make your life more comfortable right now?
Yeah.
What can I do?
You should say, I'm going to eat a really hot curry and then a whole pizza. I'm going to get really full and bloaty and feel disgusting, so that I can relate to you. And then we're going to sit here in pain together.
On the same page. Yeah.
And then in 12 hours I'll be fine and you'll still be in this mess.
Yeah. It's amazing how much her body's changing, how much, well, it's just incredible that how much the body is changing to have to accommodate for this baby.
Yeah.
And how much discomfort she's going through. And I'm sure it's not as bad for the second one because the body's ready to go. But the first one, it's been a tough.
It's all new.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that any of you have experienced before. So there's going to be like new emotions popping up, going, oh, what do I do here?
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys talk about having one of your own?
No. See, that was always no. So I always wanted kids in my life. Like, obviously, I wouldn't be dating a single mum and having a kid in my life if I didn't want kids in my life. Always wanted kids in my life, but we always spoke that within our relationship that we weren't going to have any kids. As long as I had, obviously, as long as I was in this relationship, like I had what I wanted. I had a beautiful family and a gorgeous little girl. And that's the way I see it. But unfortunately, with what happens now, like no one can guarantee or promise the future. So I guess there was always something a little bit in the back of my mind going, what if in 5 years' time this doesn't work out and I'm 44 and I want kids in my life and this thing's snatched away from me? Like, what do I do? So it was always a thought process in the back of my head. But we were fairly comfortable. We talked about marriage and stuff like that, and there was nothing that was really brought up in the relationship that sort of had me questioning that this wasn't gonna be forever.
And so you wanted did you really want one of your own children, or you were fine?
Like, no, I wanted kids in my life.
So it didn't matter if they were yours or not?
No. So when I started the relationship 2.5 years ago, and then last year when I moved in and became that sort of co-parent, I was happy with what I had.
Yeah.
As I said, like we had a beautiful little family, had a gorgeous little girl who I adored, and I didn't see it as in any other way. There wasn't going to be any more kids in that relationship. We were both happy with that, and I was happy with that as well. Yeah. So that wasn't really.
Rough one though, man. I feel for you. I'm detecting a little bit of an accent.
For me?
Yeah, mum and dad around,
only a little bit.
Yeah, only a little bit.
Yeah.
Where you got family over here?
No. Both my parents have passed away.
Oh,
I was
take
pretty.
my foot out of my mouth.
No, you're right. Everyone asks, but no, I've got no family here. Moved here 11 years ago by myself. Had a backpack on my shoulders.
Wow.
Yeah.
Travelling around Southeast Asia, and a mate of mine lived just up the road from here in Ashmore.
Yep.
And went to school with him, and he was like, mate, come on over. Like, you're close enough. So came over, stayed with him for 4 months 11 years ago, and never left.
Wow. And
Yeah.
have you got brothers and sisters?
One sister,
Yeah,
still in the UK.
Still in the UK. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm from England as well.
Oh, are you?
Moved out when I was 7 though.
Yeah, I don't pick up an accent.
Yeah, it's
No,
sometimes there.
he's bashed it down.
Get
Yeah.
out of my... Yeah, so, yeah, 7. I lived in Kent though.
Yeah, I know Kent well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the Isle of Sheppey?
I've heard of it. I've never been there.
Yeah, it's just like this little island in the...
Next to the Isle of Wight?
I don't know where the Isle of Wight is.
Yeah, okay.
But it's in the mouth of the River Thames, like in
Yeah.
the estuary there, and
Mm.
it's attached. And apparently, it was where when World War II was happening, it was a bit of an escape kind of place. But it's attached to the mainland, a really small island. But
Yeah,
yeah, I was
fair enough.
born there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never been there. And you've been here since you were 7?
So, we lived in Sydney for 3 years and then moved up here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've never gone back. My parents are like, "Fuck that! We're not going back to England. Like we
Yeah.
are. It's the best move we ever made. Was
100.
coming here.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
It was like literally. I didn't plan to move here. I just sort of landed here, which was awesome. But I've said it all my life. You know, I want to be in Australia. I want to be in Australia. And I think, you know, when you have something like that in the back of your head, like the universe just speaks, and you just work towards it every day, and just something magical happens, and it's like, well, here I am. And I still wake up every morning just so grateful.
Yeah.
When I speak to my friends over in the UK and I see what they're going through, what they're waking up to every morning, and it's like, wow, like this is just by far the best move I've ever made in my life.
Plus Putin's waving his little
Yes.
fucking
Nuclear
nuclear
warheads.
warheads.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wipe the UK off the map. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not living in England right now.
No.
There'd be an underlying fear there of just like, what if he did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What could happen?
Yeah.
No, interesting.
Horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's on the cards now, man? Are you... So obviously probably not on the dating scene yet.
No, and not yet. And yeah, got asked this question the other day, like in regards to, you know, I dated a single mum before my recent partner, and I think maybe I used to sort of attract them, like single parents, single mums, and things like that. But I think going to step away from that now.
Mhm.
Like whenever the sort of the dating scene does happen again, whether it's in 6 months or 12 months, whatever it may be. But yeah, I just this position now, like when you have that that so much hurt,
Yeah.
I don't think I could go through this again.
Bit of trauma and grief there.
Yeah, and I don't think I'd put myself through that again. So definitely. And I know the stigma is, you know, you single parents find it hard to find anybody, but I think, you know, experiences, especially with my experience, has sort of told me to kind of stay away from that a little bit now, and go my own path or go a different path, and yeah, do things on my own, with my own family and things like that.
I was when I was on the dating scene, I went on a few dates with single mums, but I'm always like, there's a lot of drama that comes with the dad and all of that happens as well. And I'm like, do I want to inherit all of that? So I was kind of a bit of a clear no for me when I was on the dating. I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I just want to find. I do want a family, but I want to create one of my own and have it like nice and clean. And that was my goal. But look what happens.
Yeah.
I think that is the thing, you know, like with the father, is he in the picture? Is he out of the picture? And I think stepping into that zone in that relationship, it's a question that you do ask, you know, like what's going on there? Am I going to be stepping on anyone's feet? Like, is it amicable? Is it not? Those kind of things. And yeah, all of those things do come with a little bit of drama. I guess we were lucky in this situation. From sort of the outside looking in, Dad did a great job, loving father and things like that. So yeah, everything sort of worked out well. I used to go and like pick her up on a Monday morning every fortnight, up in Logan, and we'd have a little chat, and yeah, you know, I'd bring her back and go to school. So yeah, from that side of things, it all worked out pretty well. Yeah, there was no dramas with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was going to say that would be my recommendation. Dating a single mother is making sure that the father is, if he is in the picture, making sure it's amicable, or just completely out of the picture.
Yeah.
Like, don't know who the father is, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's like, it's so much burden on your relationship if it's not working, if it's not. You know, what's the word? God damn. I've had a mental break now.
Yeah.
Like, and I can imagine, now that it's been 4 weeks, you would have a lot of space.
I have a lot more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've found things to fill my time with. And it's going back to what you mentioned, actually finding myself. Finding myself again. I done just 2 weeks ago. I completed Noosa Triathlon, which the month before that, it's been about 5 weeks now. The month before that really gave me time to train. Went into that, just absolutely executed it to the best of my abilities. Work, business has all started to fire up. Fitness has all started to fire up again.
I wonder if he's an activator. Do you reckon he's an activator like me?
Fuck if I know, dude.
But you'd have to listen to our podcast that's coming out next week.
Yeah.
He's a personality type from your...
yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, you're a... what's it called? Your genes... Epigenetics.
Okay, yeah.
So you might be the same as me, but for us to get rid of any like shit or like energy in us, we have to just go for a run, hit it out, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it's really good for us to do.
Yeah.
So to get rid of that energy, you just got to kind of... Sounds like that's what you've done though. You've like... I've got all these emotions and these feelings, and I've just got to get rid of them. I'm just gonna
literally just execute, and that's what makes me happy. Like starting or just about to kind of start a company and get that up and running again. So I've actually sort of found a lot more time for me, which did get brought up in the relationship as well. It's like if you haven't got a lot of time for the relationship and you put in more time into the child, it was like, do you really want this? And I had to question, like, do I want a family? Like, it was always sort of put on me, like, is this really what you want? Because when you have your freedom and you have your space, you're a powerhouse. You're doing everything right, you fitness, your business and stuff like that. And I think just because things are challenging and just because some things test you doesn't mean you don't want them. I think with anything, if you were to have a new baby in your life, which you're about to go through, you are going to find some challenging moments and some testing moments. It doesn't mean that that's not the life you want. It just means that you got to work through them. And when I was sort of single and now being single again and getting all that sort of time back, my visions haven't changed. I still want that family in my life. I still want to do the school run every morning. I still want to go to gymnastics every Thursday afternoon. I still want to see them flourish and things like that.
It's almost like you've tried before you buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. But I did question myself. I was like, is this what I want? But yeah, maybe it was a test. Like I can actually go through this motion to see if it's actually what I want before I have kids of my own.
Yeah.
And it's created that vision for me that, obviously it does take up time. And you are going to sort of have to make sacrifices, but the vision and the goal is still there for me moving forward. Eventually to sort of have that family. Like I know I've got a clearer vision now of what I want. But I did question myself and I did doubt myself. Is this what I want?
And I noticed, like with myself, when I was going through that relationship previously with the child, it's like I was so focused on being a good dad and a good partner that I didn't worry about myself at all. And the things that she was probably attracted to going into the relationship were the things that I let go of because I was so worried about being a good dad and showing up for the kid and doing all that, and then being a good part and thinking I was being a good partner, which allowed me this time around, because this is probably my most serious relationship since then. Shit.
Yeah, well, having a baby's pretty serious.
Well, it's very serious.
that is so true.
I'm just trying to think if I forgot about someone. That does happen. Anyway. Whatever. Sorry if you're out there. But this time going around, it's like I've really stuck to my guns or trying to stick to my guns as much as possible of being that sort of person, that motivated sort of person that Tish met first, and not losing traction of myself, but instead of, sacrificing this part of me with trying to become a good dad, it's like, I've now gone, okay, no, I really need to find time. When can I do this?
It's almost like you go into people pleasing mode. Like
you really do. And I think that's the best thing that's happened in our relationship, is because I am really forcing a lot of things that I need to do. Like this podcast. And James, you're aware that, like when we first started this podcast, it was like mayhem, and I was like, oh shit, I got to check my messages and I got to rush home, and it was challenging. Like. To Tisha's credit, like we've been going for 5 months or something now, and so when she had a 6-month-old, it was challenging for her, bathing her, putting her to bed, sleeping, like eating, all that, but now we've adapted to it, and like this is really important to me, doing this podcast and getting this information out. So I make
it's so accurate what you said.
I make it happen now, and I didn't whereas previous me would have gone, okay, well, she's struggling with the podcast, so I'm just going to give that up. And, you know, and then into...
But that's what makes you you, and it's what attracted her to you to begin with.
And also, and it also makes you happy because you're doing what you want to do.
And then if you're going home happy,
yeah,
then she's happy.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm more likely to give something more to her tomorrow because I've been doing this, you know.
That's exactly it.
And this can happen with just relationships in general. My last partner, I went into people pleasing mode because I wanted to make her happy, and I just ended up losing myself in this, like, not even me anymore. And I was so unhappy, and I ended up having to call it because I'm just like, when I started reaffirming, actually, this isn't who I am. I need to come back to who I was. And then she didn't like
who you were. Well, she did. Well, that's the thing. Like, when I started doing it in my previous relationship, it was because I started to. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm a fat fucker now. I've got to get back into working out and doing this. So I started doing all of this extra stuff and listening to podcasts and getting back into like the. And she was like
the person who you were,
but she didn't recognize that was the person that she first met. All she recognized was this massive change. And going, well, who the fuck is this guy now? Yeah. What is he doing? He's not about us, you know. And it would have been a massive polar opposite for her too.
So accurate, and that's exactly what happened with us as well.
Yeah.
You know, the person that she met wasn't the person that I was 4 weeks ago when we called it. Completely different person to the one that she was attracted to. You know, and I think, you know, part of that was, you know, just having that sort of the challenges and, you know, not the stress, but the challenges and the lessons and stuff like that with, you know, being in that family and, you know, putting 70% of my time into, we say people pleasing, but child pleasing, you know, making sure that she's happy and making sure that my partner's happy first and foremost before I'm happy. Which, was huge. It was kind of like, you sold me this dream man over here, and it was great for a year, and you know, you were smashing business and our love life was fantastic, and then you moved in, and then, you know, where's that person gone?
You became a dad.
You became a dad, and all about the kid, and all of those things that, you know, she was attracted to begin with slowly started to, you know, fade away, and I couldn't find a way to, you know, go back to that person living. I just couldn't adapt.
And it sounds like a really hard position to be in, because if you hadn't adjusted for the child and the relationship, it could have gone the other way. Like, she'd have gone, you don't love my kid, you don't love me. Like, it could have gone. It's a balancing act.
It is.
Where's the middle ground, and what's the win here? Yeah. What's the win for both of us? It sounds like a really hard situation and balance. Yeah.
Because you put everything into being a great dad and a great father that I know, for example, that I did. You know, like, you do split your heart. Like, it wasn't 50-50. It was 70% in the child, 30% in my partner. That's what it was, and that's probably what I'm guilty of. But, you know, where is the middle ground? It's like, if you take away from the child a little bit, you know, and you put more into the relationship and being the person that you were, that she met and that she was attracted to, then you don't taking on that father role. It's a real tough balancing act, and it's one that I don't think anyone can just sort of step into and just make it work.
Yeah.
No. It's such a tough road to try and navigate. You know, if you invite somebody into your life that doesn't want children and that is going to be 100% with you as a partner and do all the things that you want in a partner, you know, that's not going to work either, because it's like, well, hold on, he's in this child's life, but, you know, it's, you know, he doesn't want children or anything like that. Well, you got a 6-year-old who's still going to be waking up in the middle of the night with nightmares and things like that, and you're still going to have to make dinner and make breakfast and stuff like that. So it was a really hard balancing act to try and get right. And I think in time, anyone can do it. I just don't think that I had
the tools,
the tools and the education. I don't think we both had the education and the knowledge. You know, I thought that I was alone. I thought that I was alone in this, and that it was just me that was stepping into this, and that every other relationship where a guy walks into this situation is going to be perfect and everything's going to be good. I thought, well, it's just me. Do I really want this? And then obviously listening to a couple of your podcasts and educating myself on other podcasts as well, and actually learning, thinking, hold on, no, this is a challenging thing to step into for anybody. Like, it's not me, and we should have worked on it together. So yeah.
I often, when I have kind of disagreements or we have conversations, I'm like, I it's easy to compare yourself to other people. Like, oh, someone else probably could handle this much better than I can. But you can go into that headspace, but also like, hang on, I could also be a fucking gambling addict who smokes and is an alcoholic, and I could also be a really awful dad, a really awful person. Yeah, but I'm not. I'm a fucking awesome person, and I'm here for this baby and for you, and it's
you're there because you want to be there. Like, and that's the thing that I think we have to understand. Like, if somebody walks into your life and takes on that responsibility, they're there because they want to be there. They're there because they love you and because they care for you. Mm-hmm. They could walk at any time. Yeah. They've got no responsibility to that child or to that relationship. And that's, that's, I think, something that's not really that common or knowledge about. There's not a lot of information, I think, out there to sort of prepare you for that.
And I love this conversation because the awareness you've just brought to having a kid, because I feel like I could fall into that trap of like, because they say sometimes your child is the love of your life, and I'm looking for love, and at the moment I can't find it in my partner because we're not there. Like, it's been traumatizing, it's been daunting, we've got all this stuff going on. I'm like, there's potential there obviously, but there's will I find this love in my child, and will I just give that my 90% love to the kid, and it's like my whole world, and neglect my partner? I
would say this with the 90% and the 70% love and all that you guys have been mentioning. It's like, do you love your mum, James? Do you?
Of course I do.
Do you love your dad?
Of course I do.
What percentage do you love your mum?
100%.
What percentage do you love your dad?
100%.
So why why isn't there not a equal? Why isn't it a 50% and a 50%?
Maybe
it's like you can love your partner like 100%
and love
your kid 100%. Yeah. It's just completely fucking different. But I will admit, like
I know what you're saying though. Yeah, I understand. Like, it's almost like the
100%. Like like Billy is my world. So I know, I completely understand, but that's the mind frame that I've been trying to get as well. Like, and I'll say in front of Tish jokingly, but semi seriously, is love you, Billy, way more than I love Mummy.
Well, there's a truth in every joke, isn't there?
Yeah,
as they say. But it's almost like your intention and your time and that goes into the child more. So it's almost like that time or attention.
If you want that in your life, like a family in your life, I think your father sort of instincts take over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They did for me anyway. Like, my father instinct. I've always been sort of around like my nephews and stuff like that, and I always knew that I wanted to be, that I was going to be this great father. And as you sort of mentioned, James, I could be a lot worse. Like, I know that what I brought to the table in that father role was 100%, and I know that I was bloody good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's sort of almost like like the 70% thing, like your father like those instincts took over way more than my relationship and romantic instincts.
Yeah. And you said that you had business as well when you were first going in, and now you've ended it, you've started ramping that back up.
Yeah. So
obviously you had let that go in that relationship that we spoke about that before. Fucking forgot where I was going to go.
Well, it was the sorry, go on.
Oh no, you go.
Yeah, it was the sort of the gap, and I think you mentioned it on a podcast as well. Like, when you feel like everything is just sort of coming in to you and you can't navigate, you got to sort of put one thing aside. Like, it might be the romance, it might be the business, it might be whatever it's going to be, but just park one thing aside that's not important and focus on like the good stuff. Because I was trying to be a great businessman, I was trying to be a great father, I was trying to be great romance, whatever you call it, lover, I don't know.
Fabio.
Yeah. And we couldn't figure out what part we wanted to sort of park to one side. And in the end, like, I was trying to be like great on all fronts, like business 100%, because as you said, like, you know, when you're doing something you love, your business, you go home, you're happy. You know, when you're spending time for yourself, you're hanging out with your mates, you go home, you're happy, all of those things. We were trying to do everything 100%, and that's just not going to happen. You know, like, I think you need to sort of work out what you're prepared to sort of sacrifice, not permanently, just temporarily, until you get the foundations right. And then, you know, work from there. So the business side of things, yeah, my business is ramped up now because I've been able to put more time, I've been able to put more hours into it, into the business side of things. Like, my phone's always on now, whereas like my phone was off for a limited period of time in the relationship, which I loved. You know, we get home at 5:30, we have dinner together as a family, phone goes away. That was always a non-negotiable, which I enjoyed. Like, family time, I think, was important. But now business is ramping up because I'm able to put more hours in and stuff like that, and I'm able to put more time into all of those kind of things. Whereas in a relationship, like, you know, the family time, obviously that's important. The morning routine with the little one, that's important. So I was obviously starting work a little bit later, and we just couldn't sort of figure out where the balance from both. You know, and I look at my partner in that relationship as well. She went from one, like, she just went astronomically huge, like her business. You know, she was able to get a little bit of that time back. You know, when obviously we're going into that and we're sort of giving our time, we're losing a little bit of that time. She was able to go the complete opposite and just absolutely fire up her business. To this point where, you know, we obviously done it all together for like 2.5 years and supported each other and sort of got to where we want to be. That I had to wait until now, until I've sort of found myself again to get to that sort of level, or that glow up, if you want to call it.
And I am a little bit worried. I have a lot of responsibilities here. I told you I run a business. But I'm like the BDM, so I do the sales, I do all the strategy work. I'm like a key person risk, they would call it in business. And I'm worried that sleep and everything is going to make me not as good as my job and not be able to dedicate as much time as I need to. Like, the podcast is going to take a big chunk of time, and I'm worried where that sits in this ecosystem that's going to happen. And we're going to have a break over Christmas, but season 2 will be, I'm looking at maybe February to start season 2.
I think you will figure out in time when you're in that situation what's going to be important to you. Because I don't think you can you'll be able to figure it out now, because as we mentioned at the beginning, when you're in that moment, and then you're going to figure out, is it time with your family, is it the business? I think you will figure out in time what's going to be what you want to prioritize. And that's it. You don't run out. There's no such thing as not enough time. I'm the same. It's like, what are you prioritizing? And that's the key.
My advice would be actually not to, so like when you said parking the business and turning your phone off, like that wasn't doing you any service, like any favors, you personally. No. And that would have probably been somewhat soul crushing for you, and really, and like I said before, like she would have been attracted to you at the start because you were so amped up on the business, right? And obviously she's business driven as well, because her business grew. What I would be doing is reflecting every week and going, okay, this week I really focused on the business. So like this week just gone, Tish allowed me to go, well, not allowed me, but you know, I went, well, actually, let's be fair, she fucking allowed me. I was allowed to go out on a Saturday night. And then her dad's in town, so me and her brother-in-law and her dad went out for drinks last night. Some drinks last night. And I'm doing the podcast tonight. So within a week, I've had 3 nights away from Tish and Bale, and she's had to do a lot. So she's had to step up. So this week, I know, like next week, I'm like, okay, this has to be Tish's week. I've got to focus and really put some time into Tish's week, because socially this week for me was very big. Another week, I might be doing a lot of work and doing a lot of stuff with the work and podcasts for work. So, okay, now I'm going to sacrifice this week from my friends, you know, but I think you've got to really keep that. And I think that's a good way of being balanced, and it's not sacrificing anything at one time, but from week to week going, okay, well, you know, I've really got to give more next week to make up for that time that I took last week. And so that you aren't sacrificing yourself and you aren't changing what and your truths, you know, like, because I think I did the same thing as you the first time. And, you know, it was like, oh, well, family time's important. Mobile phone goes off, and, you know, and you turn the phone back on, and you fucking messages were through the roof, and it's like, why can't I get a hold of you? You know, like, and I was an electrician, so it was like the emergencies, you know, like the customer's light going out for them is a big deal, you know. So, but yeah, that'd be my recommendation.
That's great advice. I've literally just had like a light bulb moment. I wish I had this conversation 6 weeks ago. You know, just taking things week by week and saying, hey, I've sort of, my business has dropped a little bit this week. Let me focus on it next week, and then the week after that, we'll go away for the weekend. You know, I have that sacrifice. If you allow me to have that time on my phone, on my business, then the weekend after that, we'll go away for the weekend. And monitoring it week, no, like that's gold.
Yeah, and like, and you know, being a bit forceful, like, as well. Like, I mean, that sounds bad, but, you know, like I've had conversations with Teach, like, I really need this.
Fight for your needs. You're fighting for your needs.
Yeah, I'm like, look, I know that, like, you know, I had to do some work on Sunday, so I looked after Billy Saturday and Sunday while Teach was at work. She came home on Sunday afternoon, and I needed to do some work, and I was like, babe, I really need to do some work. I've communicated this to you. You know, I know that you want to spend some time because you've been at work all day, but I've really got to fucking do this. Yeah. And I'm sorry. You know.
As long as there's an understanding from the other side, then just communicating that.
Yeah. And then this week, you know, we've spent a bit more time together.
Yeah. I think that's gold. You know, just taking things week by week and just saying, hey, like, we parked this week, let's make a plan. And I think that's great advice.
But like turning your phone off because you want to spend time with the family, like, I get that. But you can't do that every day, realistically, in this world, if you want to build a business.
Not as a real estate agent.
No. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you know, and you've got to say, look, I want to provide for the family, so I've got to take some phone calls every couple of, you know, every night. But you know what? Thursday night, we're going to go out for dinner as a family. And it's going to be an actual experience. So, and I'll turn my phone off Thursday night. Yeah. You know, but I can't do it every night.
Sounds like a lot of compromising and moving things around.
Yeah.
It was. And then, just finding a balance.
Yeah.
Which is,
but
tough to find.
Yeah, because I think as men, I think we're so much more adaptable and we can see a clear objective and we just go, you know what, okay, I've got to be sharp for the family. I'm just going to turn my phone off and I'll sacrifice that and I'll deal with the consequences of that tomorrow when I can. But it's just adds so much unwanted stress and pressure. Yeah,
100%.
You know, so
I mean, like with business wise, for me personally, you know, like when you sort of when you haven't got the foundations of an income coming in, you're like, oh, holy crap! Like, obviously it puts a lot of pressure and strain on you, and then you're going back to the people that you're doing it for, and you're thinking, I've got to not provide, but you know, I've got to be here and support and stuff like that. So it's kind of like that kind of circle. Like, I need to be here making money, so that we can like do what we want to, like, so that we can have fun over here. There was a lot of pressure there.
Yeah, and by all means, I'm not perfect. I still haven't found time to go to the gym yet.
So that's the one that's on the bottom of the list at the moment.
It's also laziness. Let's be real. I've got a hand injury. Yeah. And so that's been 4 years, and it's gym at the moment. It's quite tough.
There's just other things in your life that you prioritize.
100%. So we should probably
wrap it up.
Have you got any last final thoughts?
Work together, not apart. You know, have the conversations and make sure there's an understanding that, you know, there will be testing moments, there will be challenges, there will be lessons. I think, and just, you know, working together and not apart. So,
awesome.
And if people are buying or selling homes on the Gold Coast, where can they reach you?
They can reach me at Ray White in Robina. Yep. And my Instagram is colin.j.brennan.
Cool. We'll chuck some links in the podcast.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Sharing your experiences. I think they're really valuable, and I think there's a lot of lessons there for everyone out there.
Awesome. I hope so.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing, and see everyone.